Welcome back for another Q&A session. If you have comments, go ahead and post them in the comments below or send them to my email address down there, professorwingert@gmail.com. Now for today's question, what's the difference between the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament? That's a pretty interesting question. The answer isn't exactly straightforward. So they seem like they're the same thing, the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament. Hebrew Bible being the common tradition of both the Jewish and Christian communities. The Jewish community uses a Hebrew Bible. Christian communities ultimately translate their traditions of what's called the Old Testament back from Hebrew sources at different points. So the Hebrew Bible is a reference to a few things, that common tradition that I mentioned earlier, as well as the sacred text of the Jewish community that today is best represented in the Masoretic text or the Masoretic tradition. Masorah just means tradition. It also includes things like the Dead Sea Scrolls. So when people speak of the Hebrew Bible, they're talking about what Christians would otherwise call the Old Testament. When we speak of an Old Testament, we're speaking from a theological point of view. In other words, it's usually contrasted with the New Testament. And so it will assume a Christian framework or a Christian worldview if you have old and new comparison with one another. The Old Testament includes the Hebrew Bible, but also all of the traditions that translate the Hebrew Bible, and even the theoretical texts that led to both the Masoretic, the present Masoretic text, as well as those others. They include the Septuagint, and there's a number of Greek Old Testaments, the Pshito, which is the Syriac or Aramaic tradition, the Latin Vulgate, of course, and numerous other traditions, such as the Ethiopic or the Armenian, et cetera, et cetera. So there's many different ancient or classical traditions that would be considered Old Testament. So if you're speaking about Old Testament studies, you're probably including all of those other traditions too. The Aramaic Pshito, the Greek Septuagint, and all of the different versions of those. So with that being the case, you may find, if it's in a Christian seminary, you may see the terminology Old Testament. If it's in a pluralistic or a Jewish setting, you'll see Hebrew Bible. In fact, in a Jewish setting, they call it Tanakh. And that's an acronym for the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. Torah is what is otherwise known as the Pentateuch, or the first 5 books of the Bible. Sometimes it's synonymous with the word law or instruction. Nevi'im are the prophets, and the Ketuvim are the writings. So you hear Tanakh even instead of Hebrew Bible. So Hebrew Bible tends to be the English language term in most pluralistic settings. If you go to a university, for example, you would refer to the text as a Hebrew Bible, unless you're doing something quite specific to Christian Old Testament studies, which includes Hebrew Bible, among many other traditions that go back to the Old Testament. So are they the same? Basically. Are they more than the same? Yes, they're definitely more than the same, and there's nuance to each one. You should really, consider what your setting is and how you're referring to it. So in short, when you think of Hebrew Bible, you're thinking of the root of the traditions as they emerge, both for Jewish and Christian communities. And when you think of the Old Testament, you really have to think about a plurality of traditions and all the different things that it entails, in addition to books that may be in Greek or Hebrew that are part of Christian canon that may not necessarily be part of the present Masoretic canon. Books like Ben Sira, which is part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, as well as the Greek canons, but not necessarily the Masoretic canon. So it's an interesting conversation and an interesting history, but definitely one worth inquiring deeper about. Thanks again for all your questions. I hope this was informing. Again, if you have any questions, comment or email, and I'll see you next time.